it's me, Lucas G, from the G-Bros Gaming Channel. And today we are in the Space Shuttle Advantage, favorite space shuttle, and I've really crammed this thing down you guys' throats. Don't worry, I will do something different. But this mission, I really just felt like doing this mission because why not? And that was the thesis for this video. There's not a lot to say about it. Although I might as well say, this is the spiritual successor to my space shuttle to Minmus video I did a while ago. Except this one is better because it uses the upgraded. It uses the upgraded and cleaner looking shuttle, and it also, this one has deep space. It has the orbital rendezvous in it. It took a few attempts, I won't lie. It did take quite a few attempts to get it nailed. But in the end, it got did. And that's what matters. It got did. And I'm really happy with how this video came out. It was a very fun video to make. I really enjoyed making it. We're just gonna cut to the orbit. To when we're in orbit. We did actually manage to ride the external tank all the way up into orbit. I did actually add an extra section to the external tank, and that did give us enough fuel to get into an orbit with it. We did still have to circularize using the OMS, which is just some carriers. But that managed to get us a lot of extra fuel. That gave us a lot of extra fuel to use later on in the mission. And that extra fuel is going to be pretty important because it's very important. This is a more NASA style one instead of like the normal Kerbal Space Program shuttles. A lot of normal Kerbal Space Program shuttles use the docking system on the nose, but I was kind of going for like a NASA style shuttle when I built this one. I say as I take it out to the mun. I'm not really too sure what to say here. I'm sure it could have been done and it could have happened. It could have been a thing, but it didn't. Although it would have really been cool if we had gone back to the moon in real life. If we had gone back to the moon, using the shuttles and stuff, because yeah, everyone is talking about. This is something that I think of a lot when, there's all these talks about going back to the moon. By the way, here we are, slowing the footage back down to normal mode, normal speed, because we're detaching the Mun lander. It's separate, and unlike my Minmus lander, this one does not have a heat shield, nor does it have a parachute. This is because it's going to redock with. Oh gosh. I'm sorry, I yawned there. It's quite late right now. But it's because it's going to redock with the space shuttle. From the space shuttle mothership. So we can So yeah, it's similar to my space shuttle to Minmus video, as in it's the same what even was that voice crack though? It's the same sort of like idea. It's the same sort of concept. By the way, we're gonna get Jeb on EVA, get him into the lander, and Jeb's gonna go down to the Mun and do all of his EVA activities and get his flag, or get our flag put down on the surface of the Mun, all nice and just very nice indeed. We're just gonna make a quick save here because I know somehow if I don't make a quick save, I'm going to find some way to muck this up. And the actual landing itself, I managed to do the undock and landing all in one take. No quick saves had to be loaded for the actual landing and undocking procedure. However, for the rendezvous and the redock, I did have to reload quite a couple of quick saves just to, get it to worked the way I wanted it to, which was to take the whole of both ships back down to Kerbin, just to save a little bit of money. I say as I leave a perfectly intact nuclear engine on the surface of the Mun. If I wanted to save even more money, I say as I play on sandbox mode, but if I wanted to save the most amount of money possible, I would have tried to find a way to recover that nuclear stage. Because it did have like 2,000 meters per second delta V. 2,000 meters per second delta V in it, which is quite a lot actually. So I could have found a way to fit a probe core and heat shield to it, and I could use this heat shield, come down, and could have some little landing legs, and could deploy the parachutes and land down all nice on Kerbin. But that's just, in theory, if you want to save more money. I'm sorry, I'm panting. I'm coming upstairs right now. It's quite late. We're getting ready to go to bed. And I'm quite tired, so I came upstairs and am now chilling in my room, as they say. So yeah, pretty normal. Not all too much to say about it though. Oh yeah, I did use up a tiny bit of this auxiliary lander's RCS fuel. I should have disabled crossfeed there on that docking port. It's a kind of an issue. Although it's not too big of an issue. I didn't need all too much monopropellant to do the docking. I just needed that little tiny extra bit. So here we are doing our nuclear engine burn to get out to the Mun, as one does, I guess. As one does. I feel like I did a very good job at making this thing look very, very cool. I do like the Mark 1 lander can, and I do want to work it into more vehicles, but I just can't really find the way. But I do like the way it looks as either like a lander or the white room for a launch tower. I used to have on my shuttles a small launch tower which had a little Mark 1 lander can as the white room. That's where the astronauts will climb into their spacecraft. That's where the astronauts climb into their spacecraft. I had that for some time, but the way I used it was there was a radial decoupler. And I don't know if you know, but in Kerbal Space Program, the way the radial decouplers work is they just leave a tiny little bit of debris, and it doesn't really add all too much weight. It still flew perfectly well, but there was that little bit where the explosive bolts were mounted to the decoupler, and it didn't look too good. So if you're wondering why my Mun encounter looks so good and clean when we cut to the next part, it's because I did a lot of course corrections. I don't cheat in this save file. There is a save file where I do have the debug menu enabled, just so I can, mess around with things. But this is not that save file. This is my primary sandbox save file. I am working on completing a science save file, and once I do that, I will begin doing a lot of my videos on that save file, in which, we'll have to develop SSTOs, shuttles, rockets, all sorts of other things. Speaking of rockets, I made a rocket design that I really, really like the look of. I don't know what, but it's a very basic 2.5 meter rocket, main sail, main engine, and it uses the Type B swept wing as fins. But they're not clipped in using the offset tool, but just how they're placed with the rotational tool, like the basic one that you use the D-pad for, just how they're placed with that. They look really, really cool. And they look like a delta wing, but with an open middle, It looks very, very cool. I'm not sure why, but it's a very cylindrical, basic launch stack. Very cylindrical, very basic launch stack. Also, landing legs on command pods. I would like to work some more in, because I would like to aim for more land landings, just, because I like doing land landings. That means I do get to, ditch the heat shield and hear the explosion happen in the distance, not on Minecraft. Also, not on my craft, I almost said Minecraft there. But here we are. just doing our Mun landing as one does. Yeah, we kept this nuclear engine stage on, and we actually touched down with it, and then we just used the reaction wheel I added to that thing. To the ascent stage. Sorry about that. But yeah, we had to do the landing with this actual engine. With this nuclear engine stage, just so that we can, save on fuel. Stop! I'm sorry about that. That's for a later joke I wanted to make in this video. Stop! So yeah, we're going to choose that reaction wheel, get ourselves onto that surface of the Mun that our beautiful lander can did. I also really like the way the Communitron 16 looks. I really like it. It's just a basic little antenna. It's not too practical, but I like it. It's a nice antenna. So we can get Jeb out of the cockpit gracefully and plant our flag. Hilarious, I know. But we can plant our flag, do our EVA activities. Not really much to do because it's a sandbox save file. And we're actually going to keep our landing leg stage on just so we can get the extra fuel from it. Because the ascent stage only has around 800 meters per second at delta V, and this thing has to get all the way back to low Kerbin orbit and also decelerate at the space shuttle. I did manage to get the encounters nearly on a collision course with the shuttle. Like, sans a couple meters. Just sans a couple meters. We nearly hit the shuttle when we were passing by it. One of the failed deceleration attempts. I forget that it's Kerbin. I recently only learned how to do rendezvous around Kerbin with a space station that me and my cousin had designed. Very basic. Didn't really have too much. It was just sort of to train me to rendezvous and dock around Kerbin. I'm a bit better at it now, and I've done 2 rendezvous and 2 docks around Kerbin, so I'd say I'm pretty alright. So what I did here was get my periapsis very, very low. To save fuel, I did the Oberth effect. I pushed the Oberth effect to its extremes for the Mun. I got my periapsis as low as I really, really could. It's not inside the surface. And I just burned prograde, and we got ejected from the Mun nice and quickly. Nice and easy. Very easy. No, nothing went wrong. Actually, nothing did go wrong here. Perfectly equatorial. Perfectly... I was going to say circular, but not really. And we can eject ourselves from the Mun, turn our engine down, and check out our really, really wonky orbital line. Yeah, it's very... Yeah, it's very... very messed up orbital line. Not really, much I can say about that. Other than we can make the maneuver, though, to decelerate and get into a, lower orbit around Kerbin. You can easily decelerate here. I did cut to it because I did kind of mess up and force Jeb to wait about 2 months in space. Sorry about that, Jeb. I mean, he loves space, and he's got that antenna. He's got the little communications antenna. He's got, he's got his DS. He's got his phone. He even has, he's got a little TV screen in there with Netflix, with the Kerbal flicks. I don't know. What do Kerbals watch? But he can talk to his friends. He's not all too lonely out there. He's got that communication antenna. Everyone can hear him. He's fine. And he loves space. He won't get too lonely out there. He can talk to his friends, Skype them, FaceTime them. But he can, they can all be floating around. And honestly, I feel like that's a better way to spend your time, floating around in space. So here we can decelerate to be in a not stupidly elliptical orbit, so that we don't get another Mun encounter, because we don't really want to do that again. that can and will screw us over. So I decided here to just stop decelerating and just start faffing around with the maneuver nodes to try to get my encounters as close as I could. I got them very, very close, and then just by, really pumping down the thrust limiter and just playing with all the different vectors, I was able to get my encounter very, very close. Like, if I had gotten it a few inches closer, I probably could have actually hit the shuttle. Very, very close. So we can time warp around the burn, and then do our... And then we can just quickly decelerate. Time warp to the burn, and then decelerate. And also change it so it's perfectly aligned, just as perfect as we can get it. As perfect as we can get it. And yeah, you can see me there. For rendezvous, really all you have to do is just, play around with the vectors, turn down your thrust limiter for more precise control if you don't want to waste your precious amount of propellant needed for dockings, or that will greatly help you with dockings. There are lots of people, like Matt Lown, who don't, can just dock with engines. I prefer to use monopropellant because I can just get very, very, very little, very precise maneuvers. It's especially with space shuttles and how they're, planes and not cylinders, are not cylinders with an engine at the back. Their engines are like offset. The OMS is offset to the top. So it does it forces the nose up, and RCS really helps with that. You can fix this by just having them in a different position that's lower and closer to the wing, but I just didn't really want to do it like that. I thought it would look a bit more realistic if they were up top near the tall fin, or actually where the speed brake was on the actual shuttle, because I don't think that was a tail fin. That was a speed brake. Although I guess it did serve as a tail fin just to, keep it vertically stable. And yeah, a lot of times when I am making shuttle replicas, I do find a way to I use the big ass space plane tall fin. And I put the authority. If you want to have a very accurate, if you want to have an accurate looking space shuttle with the speed brakes and the big ass space plane tall fin, what you can do is you can take the air brakes and just set the deploy limiter to 40 or so, and that will limit it so it doesn't open up too far, and then you can just go from there. And you can also use it as a tail fin to, give you some yaw control. If you're doing something like the Dyna Wing that has the winglets for vertical stabilization, or the really big winglets, then you don't really need the tail fin. And that is how the Dyna Wing works. The tail fins, it has two tail fins, which are winglets. So we can just time warp down, put our thrust limiter down, do just a bit more precise, fine-tuned birding. We could have used the RCS if you wanted to, but I was already running a tad bit too low on monopropellant. And last time I tried docking and ran out of monopropellant, well, I guess you know how that one went. If you didn't, then go watch my Mission to Miss Artemis Style Part 2 is the one where I done goofed. Now that I know that reaction wheels are a lot better than having loads and loads of monopropellant, I saved quite a bit of weight when it comes to my craft. Because, when you have monopropellant thrusters to give you all your torque, you can see me quick save in there. So we can just, I'm going to stop talking about monopropellant and RCS. We can just put our thrust limiter all the way up and, time warp and burn and slow it down. It'll be good, and nothing will go wrong. And there's zero chance. Oh, we missed it. We missed the target. Well, I suppose that sucks. I just suppose that it sucks. I'm not quite sure if it does suck, but I suppose it sucks. We can try that again. If the loading screen will be done loading. Now, I'm sure you could see that this video is very long. It took a very long time to make, and I didn't want to have to cut too many parts out, just because I feel like it's nice to be able to see the inner workings of the video. Now, this is a nightmare when it comes to doing these commentaries. I could really just solve my problems by doing it live, but I do like it. I do quite like doing it this way, and yeah. So I'm going to be doing a new series called Water Review. Matt did whiskey review. I like water. Doing water review. Today we're talking about middle of the night water. Middle of the night water is some of the best tasting water you can get. I'm not sure why, but middle of the night, water in the day, it's water. You drink it, it's good. But middle of the night water, that is the water. That's the water you want to drink. So I've got me a sip of middle of the night water. I've got some middle of the night water with me here, and we're gonna take a sip. All right. So I just drank some middle of the night water. That is some very good water, if I do say so myself. And yeah. Oh, by the way, here is my inventive solution to having very low fuel for this rendezvous. I slowed myself to around 500-ish meters per second relative to the target using the actual shuttle itself, and then I just did the rest with the lander. Because in my last rendezvous attempts, I ran out of fuel. I didn't have enough fuel sans about 100 meters per second. Plus, a little bit extra would have been nice to be able to do the target burns, but I mean, I could have tried to use up some of our precious monopropellant, but if I had ran out, the only other option I had would be to EVA Jeb, and if I did that, then we all know how that happened. Although, miraculously, in that video that I was referencing before, all the Kerbals made it back onto the station, perfectly safe. Now, this fuel-saving maneuver did actually muck up our encounter and put us on an encounter that was much farther away, but I mean, if Jeb gets home, he'll get home. And I mean, honestly, Jeb wants to get home. He quite wants us. He's been out in space for 58 days. Probably could have cut the mission a lot shorter if I had not wanted to do that burn at apoapsis, where, because of the O-berth effect, you're going slowest at apoapsis, which is why it's most efficient to do your deorbit burns at apoapsis, and why it's best to do your acceleration burns at periapsis, because you're going fastest at periapsis and slowest at apoapsis. So it's more efficient to do either kind of burn at either points of your orbit. And that is O-berth effect for you guys. So back to water review. Middle of the night water, it's some very good water. Now, you can easily get it. It's very cheap. You just get some tap water, put it into a bottle, and put it on your nightstand. And then, late at night when you're thirsty, you take a sip of it, and it's really good water. And I would gladly give middle of the night water a 10 out of 10 on the water review score. I'm not going to be giving the 10 out of 10 to all the water we review here. But, middle of the night water, it's really good water, and I feel that it deserves a 10 out of 10. You will never get water as, good as middle of the night water. So that was my dumb joke. Very dumb. Dumber than the flute joke that I did before. As you can tell, I really like doing dumb jokes. I don't know, tell me if you like the water review, if I should review more water. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I'm not quite sure. But here we are, preparing to dock. You can see I've engaged RCS, and we can just do some puffs toward the docking port, which is that manipulator arm. I finally learned to use the cow, though. although I can't really get it to work with the action groups. Although, off screen, I did figure out how to get it. I just had to have two things in the same action group. I'd have like the play direction and the toggle play. So here we go. We are docked, and then the ship started just like oscillating. I think it's because that manipulator arm began oscillating, and we were still controlling from the docking port was oscillating, and it was trying to like right itself, so it got all screwed up. But controlling from the cockpit easily fixed it because it's not oscillating, and it was able to hold its alignment until the lander manipulator arm sort of ran out of momentum to oscillate with. They can close with the cargo bay, and then realized I mucked up with the cowl, and now I need to just manually retract the manipulator arm. This is my life. I try to do something, I think I'm very slick when I do it, and then realize I messed up and have to go do it all over again, manually, the hard way. So we are good to go. Now I didn't really aim for the Kerbal Space Center because I didn't want to keep the Kerbals in space for too much longer. I know another day wouldn't have hurt them too much. But I mean, realistically, once this part of the mission is done, realistically, A, this mission would have never been done. But B, they probably could have did it a lot better if they had just decelerated not too long after being ejected from the moon's sphere of influence. They could have even just decelerated there, let alone, returned. But I suppose that Kerbal Space Program's done. Dumb and fun and stupid and awesome. Now, re-entry was quite long. Didn't get too toasty. There were some parts that did get quite toasty, but I think it's fair to say that it didn't get all too toasty up in here. Every part survived. I didn't aim for the... Originally, I wanted to aim for the island airfield, but instead of having to, muck around with the maneuver nodes, I decided, no, we'll just eyeball it with a retrograde burn. And I really did want to land on the light side of the planet, just because it's very dark at nighttime. It's very bright at daytime. And, no really way to do something about that. I suppose I could just attach lights to everything. And a lot of my landers, early game landers, like Minmus landers, I don't know, I just take a randomized guess and instantly deorbit myself before circularizing and picking a nice landing spot. I just, spin the wheel, where I land, get the surface samples, get all that stuff. It's really nice for your first couple of Minmus missions, where, you don't really have to aim for a certain biome, because there's so many biomes you haven't discovered yet. So, yeah. But I like having lights on it, because I'm not sure if I'll end up on the dark side or not. And I don't want to waste too much fuel being on the dark side. Or I don't want to waste too much fuel having to try to correct myself to be on the light side. I'm just like, if I end up on the dark side of the planet, I'll just go there. I've got lights, and I'm sure they would look very cool. If you actually go back and watch my first Kerbal Space Program video on this channel, flying a Soyuz to Minmus. Oh, by the way, re-entry is done. We are flying through the air at supersonic speeds. Very, very fast. The manipulator arm and thing and the cargo and the lander are dying? Question mark? What are they doing? And then it just got stuck, clipped underneath. I think it's because we ran out of electrical charge, but we didn't really need SAS anymore after this because the wings the wings and elevons generated enough lifting power to keep us airborne and good for landing. Now this is actually the best balance the space shuttle I've ever flown is since the Dino Wing. There are canards on this which do keep the nose lifted, but they're just clipped into the nose cone. I suppose it is kind of cheating, but I thought, aesthetics. My two main priorities when designing the upgrades were aesthetics and just keeping it very functional. Now, but it starts to nose down, so I did a sort of power dive maneuver where I would dive down as fast as possible, for as long as possible, and then pull up so that my wings would generate lots and lots of lift and I would have lots and lots of airspeed.
and the camera sort of freaked out there, but then our manipulator arm and lander exploded, and we also splashed down quite nicely. I wouldn't call it a crash. I would just, it's another happy landing, another textbook landing. I would like to aim for, when I'm doing these, either I'm going to aim for water, because I'm going to make an emergency water landing quote, not a totally improvised name for a crash landing on water, because I'm too lazy to wait.